Dave Schmidt here. Hey, it's the afternoon of Tuesday, May 26th. And yes, as you can see, well, I'm back here in my home in Sedona. It's always nice to be back home. I was on the road for about 4 weeks. I had gone to visit Charla for about 4 days in advance at her home in Texas. And then from there, we flew to the workshop that we had in San Jose. And the following day, we went to China. And we were there for about 3 weeks. And it's always nice to be back home, especially after about 4 weeks of being gone and on the road. But there's another thing I want to mention today. Well, I want to say happy birthday to my son, Matt. When you're the dad and it's your program, you get to have that prerogative. So today's his birthday. It's his 30th birthday, and he lives in the LA area, and I'm going to go over next weekend and spend a couple days with him. Haven't seen him for about 6 months. It's always an enjoyable thing. So, well, with that, what is the update? What is the information? Well, in this video, I'm not going to cover as much as I am next week. Next week, I'm going to give a full, complete, comprehensive report, kind of going back 2 years and bringing us up to date of where are we in this whole RV GCR issue and in the funding of the projects. Now, yes, we were there in China, and we were in various locations. And there was a total of 7 of us that were there with the ambassador. And you had heard in the previous report he had some health issues. He's doing fine. He's back home in Europe. He's still going through some more testing to make sure everything is okay and all is well and covered in his life. But right now, his health is doing fine. I talked with him earlier this morning, and he said, he's been sleeping more than he has in years, which is a really good sign because it's a sign that his health is recovering and he's doing very well. Next week. Why the comprehensive report? Well, because he will be on the program with me next week. We are going to do a pre-recorded segment to kind of bring us up to date of what's happening with the RV, the GCR, and all the funding of projects. Now, let me come back. And I had said there was a key date to watch, and that was May 17th. And that's while we were in China. And I had been saying that to watch that for about 3 months. Well, there were some very comprehensive meetings that the family conducted while we were there. Now, obviously, we didn't get to be a part of it, but we would get firsthand reports from the ambassador of where the Red Dragon and the other senior elders of the family were doing some planning and also basically moving of funds. Now, does that mean those funds are coming to us in an El Prompto right-away situation? No, it does not. Because, see, I've been saying now, well, for over a year, and it was confirmed again on this trip, funds for the RV won't be released until they're ready to be released into a safe environment. Now, the ambassador and I will cover more of that next week in the comprehensive report, in the interview I do with him, and also with the written report that I will do that's kind of a comprehensive follow-up. Also, then, what does that mean on the other side about funding of projects? That is moving forward. If you want to receive funds for projects, I cannot express how important it is for you to go to the TrueVisionOfPeace.com website and inquire there about what you need to do. Here's one thing that we've learned about the family in the releasing of funds. They do release funds, but I have said this repeatedly, and it was confirmed again in our meetings with them when we had them. They do not give funds away like a Santa Claus, nor hand it out like candy. It has to be in an essence. There has to be somewhat an investment on your part. In essence, they want to make sure that they're just not passing it out and it doesn't get used wisely. All funds, it's their policy. All funds are released with mission and with purpose. And what that means is that there's probably going to need to be some sort of a minor investment on your part, a commitment on your part. If we could use some sort of a vernacular term, I could say, you got to have some skin in the game, folks. Now, what does that require? Well, it's pretty simple. You have to be able to put together a business plan. And if you don't know how to do that, then you can take one of the workshops that the team of the True Vision of Peace puts on about how to put a business plan together. And then from there, you need to make your presentation to the ambassador. And yeah, you'll have to pay $100 to do that. But you know what? That's a pretty simple investment to be able to receive grant funds that don't have to be paid back, that could be in the millions and millions of dollars. And you know what? I guess if I've really learned something, these folks are for real. We had some guests along with us on this trip. And part of this was to really verify for themselves personally that this family was very real, this ambassador was very real, and the money that they have is very real. Now, in the future, I'm going to do some follow-up reports with some new historical reading I've been doing about the new evidence of historical archaeological reports that are coming out that justifies and clarifies how the family has all this gold. There's historical proof behind this, folks, but it's never come out into the open. I've also reported to you that I'm in the process of writing a book. Now, the book really does, it contrasts what is called our reported world, the world that's been reported to us, not only for decades, but also for centuries and millenniums, been reported to us, but yet that report isn't totally correct and true. That in contrast to what I call the shadow world, the world that goes on behind the scenes that the public never gets to know about. The world that goes on by these rulers and these controllers that control the world's money supply have dominated what is reported to us through history and through historical events that have been reported what they want us to know in contrast to what the real truth is. We see this throughout history. We can go back thousands of years, and we always see what is called this duality of the reported world versus the shadow world. And we're starting to see it now more than ever before. But we're now entering into a time and an era that these controllers can't keep themselves in the shadows anymore. Because, see, you and I are moving into an era where we can talk to each other and we can learn from each other and we can bypass what they have been sharing with us. And in that process, we as a collective in the human race are beginning to wake up. And as we're waking up, it's beginning to shift what is going on in the world. We're moving into a new era that us, the common people, who have been kept in the shadows, are starting to really see where the real shadow world is all about. Now, I've shared with you times in the past that many of you know my background. I'm a former state senator. I spent 20 years of my life in politics, 12 years as an elected official. Now, some of you will say, well, that's the biggest problem. That's why we can't trust you. Well, that's your prerogative. But I'm a senator that I like to use a term that I'm a recovering senator. I'm recovering from the reality of when I was there, and I learned when I was there that life wasn't as it was reported as we thought it was. I've been able to step out and been willing to step out to basically be a whistleblower of why government lies, steals, and cheats. And there's a lot of you that don't realize also that I have been on a program that's been shown on the Discovery Channel for about the last year and a half, and it's been seen by over 30 million people. I'm in a segment that talks about the government cover-up and the lying that goes on about the reality of UFOs. Because, see, living in Sedona, Arizona, it is reported that there are more UFOs here, more UFO sightings than anywhere else in the world. I don't think it's a coincidence. It's part of what comes with this area that I call home, Sedona. And why was my interest in that? Well, I don't put a lot of time and a lot of research into it. That's not my area of specialty. But it is an issue that I've always had an interest since I was a little boy. Because, see, my mother was someone who was abducted by a UFO when I was a very small child. She rarely ever talked about it, didn't want to say much to us, but little things would come out here and there. And then as we grew older, we began able to put pieces together and understand what really happened in her life. Now, that's another whole story. But when that happened and I understood what really was going on, and she had an experience that so people want to talk about, and back when that happened to her in the 1960s, she didn't dare want to talk about it with anybody because obviously they would have said that she was crazy, and obviously some of them would have attempted to put her away. It became a real source of conflict in my mother's life, and as a child I had to grow up with this secret that she never wanted to talk about, but yet understanding there was something that was going on in her life that very few people knew about. That became my desire and my quest to understand and know the truth, and to be willing to say it and to speak the truth. During my time in the 12 years that I was in politics, I was known as someone who would stand for the truth. I was someone who was willing to take a stand, even to go against my own colleagues and what I call my own party members if it meant standing for the truth. It was a process of learning. It was a process of discovery. And by the time that I was done, in many ways I had made a complete shift from where I had started, because I would come to the point of understanding that I was stuck in a system that was broken and that was controlled and dominated by the power of money. And from there I began to understand what was really going on in the world of politics here in the United States. And that's always been my desire, to stand for the truth, regardless of where it would take me. I made decisions even when I was in politics to take votes that was in contrast to others, and also to take votes that would lose support, would lose voters, and would lose me campaign contributions, because I wanted to know what was the truth. And here I am again, in stepping into another area about what really goes on in understanding the power of money within our world. It's always a question, it's always an issue, and it's always a case of follow the money. And this whole RVGCR issue, regardless of who you're listening to, who you're following, ask the question, follow the money. Where is the money going to come from that's going to pay for this whole RVGCR? In my conversation that I had with the ambassador, and also what we had discovered in our time that we were there within China, we had come to understand more than ever before the real source of that money lies with this family that we refer to as the Dragon family. Now, when I refer to them as the Red Dragons, really that is just a code name, is all that it is. Red Dragon is a code. They're actually much, much deeper than that. There are various colors that are involved with this family, but I can tell you with my understanding of where I've been and how deep I've been able to go down the rabbit hole, this family is the source. And this gold is very real. And we can trace it historically through archaeological evidence of how it came into being into their possession. And it is their gold. And they have the right to make the decisions on what they will do with it. And they are dispersing trillions of dollars right now that you and I don't see and don't understand. I'm not at liberty to discuss all of that. Why? Well, there's some people that don't like what I have to say. There are some people that don't like that I'm a whistleblower, and when I say some of those things, it really rustles some feathers, and at times it even creates potential threats upon my own life. In our trip that we had here to China, and in my discussion with the ambassador, he had begun to realize that there were security people that were following him from the time that he left his home till the time that he had gotten back home. Very interesting. He's being followed around because people want to know who he is, and they want to be able to follow him because so that he would lead them to the source of who are the leaders within the family. He was aware of what was going on, and obviously he wasn't going to talk about it, and I'm not going to talk about it. We had a very interesting experience being on the streets in Hong Kong and watching how various people understand that who he is, they know who he is. And he would just go walk down the streets of various districts within Hong Kong, and there would be people that would recognize him and saying, "Mr. Ambassador, it's nice to see you back. We haven't seen you for a while." That's the type of world that they live in, and that's why we can't talk about a lot of these things. It's for our protection, his protection, and your protection. And you need to trust me when I say that. It's important that we don't discuss too much of this, and we allow things to unfold in their due time. Now, next week, the ambassador and myself will give you a more full and comprehensive report about project funding and about the RV. What is it going to take? Oh, I should say the RV/GCR, the Global Currency Reset as well. What is it going to take before those funds are going to be released? There's some more issues that need to unfold. I'm sad to say that. I wish I could say it's going to happen tomorrow or next week, and folks, it's not. I know others are reporting that. Well, you can listen to whoever you want to listen to. I know who my source is. I've been there. This was my third trip to China. Third time I had met with the family in China. And I've understand that they are that source. A lot of others think they know where the source is, but I'm going to say, folks, they just don't. See, that's why nothing has happened and transpired. Some of these guru writers, you folks have been following them for 2, 3, and 4 years, and they never have anything new. It's always about next week, this weekend, next month, constantly giving you dates and projections that never happen, and they have to continue basically pushing it out till the lack of credibility and integrity in their statements begins to be displayed. If you're trusting them for your own sake, for your own mental health, for your own importance, and for your own security, you need to ask them the question, where's this money going to come from? And if they can't give you a credible answer by now, as long as they've been reporting on this, then you have to start asking yourself, why do you continue to follow them? How true and reliable are their statements? How true and reliable are the sources that they are quoting from or they're getting their information from? Folks, I've been down this rabbit hole. I could say a whole lot more. I can give you names. I can give you specifics. I can give you dates. I can give you details. But you know what? Folks, I'm not that stupid. I'm not out here to put my life in danger. There are people who report this stuff, and they go too deep, and they lose their security. They lose the protection that's around them. But I want to say that for you. For you. At what point in time do you want to continue to believe nothing but an illusion and a fantasy that a lot of others are sharing? I'm not going to name names. Those are all decisions that all of you have to make yourself. Is this unfolding? Yes, it's unfolding. And yes, some of you are going to criticize me and say, well, you've been saying that for 2 years. Yeah, I have. But I'm here to be a reporter, to share the information with you. I am not the decision maker. The family are the decision makers. They are the ones who are the source of the funds. Now, as I said, in the next week, I'm going to write a very comprehensive report that kind of summarizes where this has come from in the last 2 years, how things have developed, why things aren't coming forth as they are, and when we might project the possibility of it happening and how it is going to unfold. I'll do that in the report next week. But for this time, well, it's Tuesday, May 26th. And on tomorrow, on May 27th, I'm going to be back on the radio program. We were asked to go quiet during the time that we were in China because for security protection for ourselves. Well, right now, I'm back home. I love my home here in Sedona, the uniqueness of this beautiful community that I live in. And I will have a radio program live tomorrow, May 27th, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And with all that, folks, I just want to say thank you so much for all of your patience, all of your support, for all of you that have been here following me for the last 2 years. We're in this journey together. The most important thing that we can all do is to continue to believe. Now, does that mean you go out and buy more dinar and more dong? No, I'm not saying that. But continue to be patient. This is one of the largest shifts and historical changes that we're going to go through in a couple of thousand years. These things don't happen overnight. They unfold over years. Historical shifts of this proportion take a while to unfold, and it is unfolding. If I didn't believe it was going to be happening, I'd be telling you the truth. Because see, I can move on. I could choose to do other things. But I choose to do this because I'm someone who's committed to reporting the truth as I see it in this shadow world that I've been able to step into and go pretty deep down the rabbit hole. I'll be covering more of that in the book that I'm writing. Now, that book's going to take a while before it comes out, but it is this whole contrast of what I call the reported world versus the shadow world. And as we allow ourselves to understand the shadow world, it brings the shadows into the light. And as the shadows come into the light, truth gets revealed, and that means truth gets to unfold, and those events will transpire and will take place. So thank you very much. Love all of you, and would love to have you joining me on the radio program tomorrow night. Please feel free to call in. I'll allow callers to call in tomorrow night, ask your questions, make your comments. Okay? Love all of you. Okay, bye-bye.